to Android Dialogues, where we have bite-sized conversations with people in the Android community. I'm Huyen, and I'm speaking with
Liam Spradlin.
Liam, where are you based and how'd you get started in Android?
I'm based in New York now, originally from Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, if anybody didn't catch that. Yeah. And I got started when I got my first Android phone, which was actually the Evo 4G. So I was like a little bit late to the scene. But I loved the Evo, and I was totally into like the ROMing and modding and all that. And then I started writing for Android Police.
Which I love Android Police. I did not know that you were actually, you're an editor for Android Police. And Android Police is this awesome website that's like the resource for everything Android. So it's not just like development, right? But it's like device updates and just like the platform and cool apps. So like, how did you get involved with Android Police?
Honestly, I was in college and I read them all the time. And I just sent Artem some writing samples and was basically like, I want to write for you. And it just went from there. So I still do write for them occasionally, whenever I can. But I'm mostly editorial now.
Sweet. Well, I mean, you're so busy. Like, I know you said you got started late, but you've been doing a lot of amazing stuff. And he like speaks. He has like a podcast called Design Notes, right. And you also stream. Like sometimes when you're doing your design work. But we were just talking about an app that you recently did for like productivity. What's it called?
Yeah, so it's called 5217. It's the latest app from Franco, and I. We collaborate a lot on everything, but it's we took the idea from the Muse that posted an article saying that 52 minutes of work followed by 17 minutes of rest was the most optimal kind of productivity cycle. So we took that idea and basically did kind of a design/development study, figuring out how we could reduce that to the absolute most minimal experience possible, while still executing it really well in code. And I think we did a good job of it. It's been controversial because it's so minimal, but yeah, I recommend checking it out if you're into that kind of productivity timing situation. I've been using it personally, and I feel like it helps me kind of get a better flow going. But
can you talk about a little bit, like maybe like for your process? I mean, because you just mentioned that it's controversial because minimal, but like kind of what were like some factors that went into your mind that led you to do something like that?
So, we chose the 5217 cycle, and I thought, that's a really specific cycle, and it doesn't require a lot of elements to do, like as a person, to time yourself. You just need something that like helps you see that time visually, give you audio cues when it's time to rest, stuff like that. So that's literally all we wanted to put into it. So I just wanted to see how we could take those few sparse elements and implement them in a way that's simple and also just appealing to the user.
I think it's really cool that, for example, that you like live stream all the time and kind of getting to see like your decision-making process on things. And I know like I'm a developer. I don't really have much at all like domain knowledge about design. And I was actually reading some of your articles, and I think it's really cool to kind of see like how you think about certain things or how like small things about design can affect the user experience. Like I was reading an article that you wrote, and you talked about just the contrast between like, I guess like colors and like text increases readability. Can you talk about a couple things that I guess that are kind of like foremost in your mind, or that are most important, or that maybe are just things that are simple things to think about or simple things to do that kind of make design experience better?
I'm really big into being opinionated in design and letting the software have kind of a voice. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. So contrast is one, styling text differently, but you can kind of make an experience feel organic to the user without kind of like pushing them towards buttons or sticking something in front of their face all the time. And I think that those are really interesting opportunities. But I guess mostly what I think about is just like how humans use things. And for me, my focus is on software. So, I have like the building blocks of that, and just seeing how I can put those together to make a successful experience for them.
Well, so the article that I was reading actually, where you were talking about these different aspects, is something that you've been talking about a lot lately, and that's mutative design. And before I actually read the article, I was thinking, well, that sounds very Android, right? Because in Android, we're always talking about like adaptive interfaces and dealing with different screen sizes and the F word fragmentation. But when I actually read the article, it was actually something a little bit different. And I was wondering if you could give us your elevator pitch on what mutative design is.
Sure. So I guess like a one sentence way of saying it would just be that mutative design is right now a theoretical design methodology for interfaces that would be born, live with, and kind of evolve with the user's realities. So what I mean by that is, user realities are things that are just facts about the user that influence how they use a device or an experience. Things like vision level, physical acuity, even things like literacy or exposure to tech or data connectivity, things like that. And so mutative design seeks to address all of those without compromise by allowing the interface to evolve on its own.
It seems like there's a lot of like logic and a lot of like kind of work that would go into kind of transforming a UI to fit the person that uses it. And something you mentioned in the article, which I thought was really cool, is that this idea of averaging the user and stuff like that. Just like basically trying to find personas that fit most people probably.
Right.
But rather than going that way about it, to actually kind of fit almost like kind of like a tailor-made like app. If it seems like something that's just kind of like it's totally new to the way we think about and do apps right now. Do you have like, I guess, like, how do you see like the path to kind of getting to mutative design from where we are now?
Yeah, honestly, just more involvement from developers and designers who want to help figure out. Because there's like some very fundamental questions, right, about how we can accomplish something like this, like user confidence. How do we transform an interface without breaking that? How do we account for every possible reality? Things like that. I actually think from a design perspective, that mutative design is very liberating because you're no longer really tied to all of these like ongoing averages, because eventually the system would be able to do that itself and mutate accordingly. So you really get to focus on what I call the mother design, which is kind of like the archetypal design that the user might not ever see, but it's kind of where you establish things like mental model and hierarchy and things like that. So how do we get there from here? Selene is a first step. It's an open source sample app that just has a couple of really simple mutations. But I think honestly, things like that, just experimenting with very basic mutations and then building up from there, and then eventually having the system that would be able to do it automatically in kind of a universal scope.
I think that's such a really cool idea, because I feel like we're so used to, again, being adaptive as Android developers, but this is like kind of adaptive in a whole different sense. And again, like instead of like adapting apps to devices, we're adapting like apps to users, which I think is a really cool concept. Something definitely worth I think really interesting and worth checking out. So yeah, thank you so much for stopping by and talking to us, Liam. Where can people find you on the internet, basically? Where can they find all these awesome things?
I'm at Liam Spradlin pretty much everywhere, or plus Liam Spradlin if you're on Google+. You can find me there, or just liamspradlin.com has links to everything. Phoebe.xyz, Phoebe.xyz is where you can find info about mutative design if you want to get involved, which you totally should. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covers all the bases.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Liam, and
thanks for having me.
us. Yeah, it's awesome. And we'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Bye.